What's here, y'all? Well, let's continue with our Kentucky Derby contender profiles and talk about Tiztastic, the Louisiana Derby winner. Trained by Steve Asmussen, still looking for his first Kentucky Derby. Got a owned by Winchell Thoroughbreds and Magnier and Tabor, which is pretty premium connections. Joel Rosario for a late runner. You couldn't ask for a much better jockey. I know Joel has his detractors, but he's pretty good on the lead on turf, and he's pretty good from behind on dirt. So this is a pretty good scenario for him. You see that Tiztastic, he's been pretty competitive in all the Derby preps and along the trail. And note that he was second in the street sense, which Sovereignty won. And I put that in there mainly to note that that's sort of become a key race because Sovereignty, of course, won the Fountain of Youth and is one of the top contenders in the Derby. And that race also produced Tiztastic in second, but you also had Sandman, who came back and won the Arkansas Derby. So a pretty good race, and we'll see if it can be replicated in the Kentucky Derby. Taking a look at Tiztastic's pedigree, I got to admit I'm surprised. This one was a little shocking to me in some respects. You see, he's by Tiz the Law, and Tiz the Law won the Belmont, albeit around one turn at a mile and an eighth, and was second in the Derby. So he could run just fine. Constitution, more of a miler type of sire, but that lineage going all the way back to AP Indy is pretty good for two-turn stamina. So that part of it's pretty good. Now, on the dam side, that's where it gets a little tricky. Keisha's only got a couple but none of them. It should be noted that Tiztastic, I believe, is have to interpolate, who was more of a one-turn horse. I had won a couple races at 7 furlongs or placed for Chad Brown and Claridge Stables, but not one of his hotter prospects. And you go back, really just didn't find a whole lot of stamina, and that's borne out when you look at the Conduit Mare profile. Certainly there are some stamina influences. 6 for solid and 5 for professional, but it is skewed towards speed, 15 to 11, and the triads are as well. So while most of us, including myself, thought, mile 3/16, Tiz the Law got it pretty well, maybe mile and a quarter shouldn't be an issue. It still may not be, but the pedigree doesn't sell you as much as I thought it would. So just a little something to keep in mind when we consider the prospects of Tiztastic. Now, when you look at the running lines, now there's some other things that are borne out here that I think are really telling. Now, Tiztastic's done a lot of running, and yes, he's in the money quite often. And he's never been worse than fifth, and he's done that in big fields too. So this is a horse who has been pretty competitive, but I'll tell you something that I don't like. And, I like many of you, thought, well, Tiztastic, if I know one thing, that he's going to keep running. So that alone makes him attractive as far as a contender in the Derby, maybe not necessarily as a winning candidate, but certainly one, because you figured, you look at the stamina, tap it underneath, Constitution on top, Tiz the Law, should be no problem, 2 turns. And it still might not be, but look at the running lines here, starting in the Southwest Stakes. And you see that late fraction of 92. He didn't do a whole lot of running at the start, 83, 86, 92, getting a little faster as he's going along, not too much early. Okay, so he gets third there. Now go to the Rebel Stakes, and you see he's more forwardly engaged. Now that would be a good sign, except for the fact that his late fraction gets reduced to an 83, and consequently he runs fifth. Now he had a little trouble in that race, and I wasn't surprised when he came back and did well in the Louisiana Derby. However, look at the running line, the fractions again. Increase of the early fractions, E1 and E2, 92 and 114, but the late fraction gets decreased to an 81. Now that's a mixed signals to me. It's good that he's getting more forwardly engaged. He's running a little more earlier. That's always good, especially when a horse starts off as one who runs from behind. You always like to see that. So that is a mark of improvement, and it's borne out. You can see in the class rating, had a couple of 118s, and then pops to 122 and gets his career high Brisnet number by 10, which is in itself a little alarming because it may signal a regression. So it that these pace lines are troubling to me because you want to see it the other way. You want to see that late fraction getting better, not worse, because that's a mark of a horse who's really getting comfortable around 2 turns and is really starting to come into themselves. So if it says anything, it says that Tiztastic is probably pretty much about the same. He's not necessarily getting better. It's just the scenarios have been more favorable for the way he runs. And the thing I've always noticed about Tiztastic is that he will keep running. And obviously, if you get a pace scenario that's pretty quick up front, and you take a note of some of the horses who were up amongst the leaders, like Built, who started wilting, where it's probably too much for him, too long, then maybe it doesn't look quite as good as it did visually. So, in sum, to me, when we look at Tiztastic, the positives are he keeps running. And for that alone, I think we certainly still have to consider him. And he's very consistent. He always seems to be in the mix. So you have to like that. What's the knock? I don't know that he's going to have that late kick, that acceleration to really finish a race. The Louisiana Derby notwithstanding, I just showed you why I don't think he's really a traditional closer. I think he's a horse who's kind of one pace, who just sort of keeps running. And that may be fine. That may be enough to get him in the mix. But as a kind of an upset Derby winner, no, I don't think so. Class. I'm putting Class in there because the races he's running have been pretty good, but he hasn't run against, since the Street Sense anyway. He hasn't run against Journalism or Sovereignty. When he did run against the likes of like Coal Battle, he couldn't finish that race, and that he really should have been able to, because I thought the pace was pretty brisk there as well. So, in sum, I'm not as high on Tiztastic as I once was. I think just the nature, he kind of reminds me of Drosselmeyer from a few years ago, you might remember. I think he ran in the '08 Derby, and he was really one-paced, and I said, but he's going to win the belt, or not, maybe '09. I can't remember, '09 or 2010, one of those. But he was really one-paced runner. You could see it all the way along, but I said, but you get him in the Belmont, and he's a really good candidate to win the race, and he did, basically because he just kept running. So, Tiztastic, to me, an under candidate for sure. Really remote that he takes the Derby just because of the way he runs and the fact that you have horses who are faster who can also get 2 turns and do it pretty well, maybe a little better than Tiztastic. So anyway, for what it's worth, there it is. We'll have more Derby profiles coming up, and then we'll get into our elements of handicapping. If you do like content like this, please like and subscribe. And again, thanks so much to all of you who have come on board. Let's keep that moving forward. Let's keep the comments coming too. Still loving that, and really appreciate it. It really adds something to the channel, and I thank you guys for that. Please keep them coming. So that's it from here. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.